McClung, arguably the greatest dunker in NBA dunk contest history and almost certainly the greatest player in NBA G League history, has officially given up his mission to make it in the NBA and has chosen to finally leave the G League and take the step to pursue an overseas route to professional basketball. For years, he declared that the overseas money wasn't worth it, just in February saying he has turned down, quote, millions of dollars, but this NBA quest is where my heart is at. After spending 5 years fighting in the NBA G League between 10-day contracts and two-way deals, he finally gave up that mission, signing a contract with FIATC Bàsquet Girona in Spain. You look at Mac's G League numbers and you can't really understand why he wasn't able to make it in the NBA. The numbers are astonishing, and we will go through that here in a minute, but Mac McClung absolutely produced to the highest degree possible statistically as a G League player, and he really just worked incredibly hard to get to that top level, but he just couldn't do it. And today we're going to go over all the reasons why he couldn't do it, and why it really isn't a failure of his hard work, but simply his player archetype. So let's not waste any time and get into it. To fully comprehend the magnitude of Mac McClung's transition overseas, one must first recognize the sheer scale of his accomplishments in the NBA G League. He was undrafted out of Texas Tech in 2021. Mac quickly established himself as an elite offensive engine. He became the 2021-22 NBA G League Rookie of the Year while playing for South Bay Lakers, averaging 21.7 points, 7.6 assists, and 6.6 rebounds in 27 regular season games. While doing that, he demonstrated an immediate ability to dissect professional defenses, and he was extremely impressive as a ball-dominant guard overall. Over the next 4 seasons, his production only got better. McClung is the only player in the 25-year history of the NBA G League to win the MVP award there twice. He captured his first MVP during the 2023-24 season while operating as the primary focal point for the Osceola Magic. He secured his second MVP during the 2025-26 campaign while playing for the Windy City Bulls, pacing the league with a staggering average of 31.8 points in the regular season, logging a league-high 923 total points for the campaign, alongside 7.9 assists and 3.6 rebounds per contest. He was just exceptionally dominant as a player in the G League and was at his best just last year. Alongside his G League dominance, McClung was simultaneously cementing himself as a mainstream cultural phenomenon, and this is why pretty much everyone knows him. He, of course, won 3 consecutive NBA Slam Dunk contests from 2023 to 2025, became the first player in NBA history to do that, joining Nate Robinson as the only 3-time champion in the exhibition's history. Yet, despite achieving unparalleled dominance in the G League and becoming a global name recognized by almost everyone as a premier dunker, McClung's efforts resulted in just 17 total games played at the NBA level. NBA teams had all the incentive in the world to try to sign the man, make him a role player, and with all the positive attention and jersey sales that would come with that, and he just did not stick with any roster despite his incredible production. And the reason can be boiled down to this. So, to conceptualize why the greatest scorer in NBA G League history could not secure a permanent roster spot in the NBA, one must examine the philosophical differences between leading a G League offense and filling an NBA rotation spot. The transition from the G League to the NBA is rarely a linear progression of who can score the most, but instead it's an exercise in role reduction and tactical adaptation. So the greatest example of a quote that really encompasses this is Alex Caruso. So Alex Caruso, former undrafted G League player who successfully transformed himself into an elite, highly compensated NBA role player, perfectly articulated this dynamic. He was discussing why incredibly talented players fail to graduate from the G League and get NBA contracts. He stated, quote, "A big reason why guys get stuck in the NBA G League is they don't understand the position they're trying out for. It's like going to a job interview and thinking you're going to be the CFO of a company and they're looking for a guy to come and clean the bathrooms. Guys in the G League try to average 25 points a game. NBA teams got guys they're paying $30 million a year to score 25 points a game. It's a self-awareness of understanding what you're good at and what teams need and trying to make that work together." End quote. This concept is the defining filter of modern NBA talent evaluation. Every NBA franchise is built around 1 or 2 primary offensive engines, or the CFOs. These are the franchise cornerstones, players like Luka, Shea, or Jokic, who are heavily compensated to dominate the basketball, orchestrate the offense, and take difficult, high-leverage shots. The remaining 11, 12 roster spots are not reserved for slightly lesser versions of that CFO. They are reserved for specialists who do the structural dirty work without requiring the ball in their hands. The janitors. NBA general managers and head coaches are looking for G League call-ups who can seamlessly integrate alongside their established players. They want players who can execute tenacious point-of-attack defense, navigate off-ball screens, make extra connective passes, space the floor in the corners without hesitation, and maintain absolute discipline within a complex defensive scheme. They require low usage efficiency, high-level defensive IQ, and a minimal amount of mistakes, not high usage volume scoring almost always. McClung is fundamentally a basketball CFO, at least in his play style. His entire competitive advantage is predicated on having the ball in his hands, probing defenses in the pick and roll, shot hunting, and creating offense off the dribble. In the G League, his combination of elite burst, verticality, and shooting touch allowed him to thrive in this primary initiator role, generating near 30 points a game, at least in his most recent season. However, when he was called up to different teams, whether it would be the Chicago Bulls, Philadelphia 76ers, or Indiana Pacers, those franchises already had established ball-dominant guards who they wanted running the offense. They did not need a backup guard to dominate possession and hunt for his own shots. They needed an ancillary player, a defensive stopper who could catch and shoot and rarely turn the ball over. Because McClung's offensive rhythm relies heavily on high-volume touches that he would never receive on an NBA floor, his utility plummeted in a reduced role. The skills that made him a G League legend were entirely redundant at the NBA level. He lacked the ability to instill the traits required of an ancillary player into his game. As great of a player as he was as the ball-dominant guy, he wasn't as good as any of the currently established CFOs are in the NBA to take their role. And as a role player, he is simply too reliant on having the ball. As an off-ball player, he would be relegated to a shooter and a defender, and if that's all you're using McClung for, there are unfortunately guys that are just better at shooting set three-pointers and playing defense than he is. And those guys are 6'8". He's 6'1", 6'2", not an incredibly physically imposing player. They're providing more in roles that NBA teams are wanting. Ultimately, Mac proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that he is one of the most gifted basketball players on the planet. To become the all-time leading scorer of the NBA G League, capture 2 MVP awards there, and win 3 consecutive slam dunk contests requires an immense level of talent and offensive mastery that only a fraction of percentage of human beings possess. Yet, the NBA is an intricate puzzle that requires highly specific shapes to compete and fit in within a championship roster. McClung, again, a 6'1", 6'2" guard with a short wingspan who thrives on high usage, but lacks those traits that NBA teams are looking for, whether it be just fitting in as a role player or being a switchable defensive utility. He just did not fit into the margins of what an NBA team wanted. He was a leading man auditioning for a supporting role, and as Alex Caruso so aptly noted, he was interviewing for the CFO position when teams were looking for a janitor, and he lacked the physical tools to effectively clean the metaphorical bathrooms for an NBA roster. When it finally became clear that he was aging out of the possibility of making the NBA in any real, enduring sense, he finally made the decision to move on. By signing with Girona, McClung has chosen to stop fighting the gravitational pull of his own playing style. In Spain, he will no longer have to pretend to be a role player. He's being hired to be the franchise engine, at least that's what the general manager has seemed to indicate, if he can adapt his explosive, high-flying game to the physical rigors of European basketball. The 27-year-old will likely not only validate his basketball skill, but likely carve out a highly lucrative, high-level career on the international stage. Much like someone like a Jimmer Fredette before him, he isn't made for the NBA as it stands, but that doesn't mean his career is a failure or he's a bad player. In fact, it would be fair to say that he is a better player in a vacuum than a number of current high-earning NBA role players, but they do the small things that teams are looking for better than he does. His departure from the American basketball system is not a failure, but rather a long overdue beginning in an environment that is finally designed to leverage his specific brand of greatness. In the European leagues, he can be a star, and likely a very high-earning one at that. I think this is an exceptional move for his career, and I can't wait to see what he does. And that concludes this video. Thanks to everyone for watching. If you are new here, I primarily focus on NBA draft-related content and player profiles, so if that interests you, be sure to like and subscribe. With all that, hope you guys enjoyed. Hey, thanks again for watching this video. If you like what you saw, go ahead and click on one of these videos here to see more.